The canon of style doesn't just mean how you dress when you are giving a speech. It really is about style at the level of language, the kind of language that you're using. It's really at the level of the sentence level language that you are using. And in this video, I can only cover a small amount of all of the immense variety of stylistic variations that might appear in any given speech. We're just going to focus on a few that you might wish to actively try to incorporate in some of your speeches as we're going forward. So the first one, and the big kahuna stylistic gesture of all of them, is metaphor. A good speech is like a body. It's well composed. All of its parts are proportioned to one another. They are all various in their function. Some allow you to move towards the audience. Sometimes the body of the speech is what allows the speech to really see the audience itself, as well as the face of the speech being what the audience sees. The comparison of a speech to a body is itself a metaphor. It's a classic metaphor. It goes all the way back to Plato. The idea of a metaphor is something that allows us to take abstract ideas and make them concrete. It can do much more than that, but that's going to be one of the big advantages of using metaphors in the kind of speeches that you'll be preparing for. In professional and business contexts, which often are excited about what is data-driven and informational, metaphors can seem out of place. But we can also think about metaphor at the very root of language. Originally, pretty much every idea, every concept was a metaphor. Even the word metaphor itself was a metaphor, coming from an idea of carrying something across, an idea from one place to another. So because language itself is metaphorical, practicing and being engaged with metaphor allows you to use the resources that are available within language itself. It also helps with vividness by making things that are hard to conceptualize more concrete. Good metaphors are not necessarily metaphors that are randomly selected or just that are the most vibrant or strange. Those might be memorable, but really a strong metaphor is something where there's a huge or a lot of different kinds of predicates from both concepts can apply to one another. A strong metaphor allows us to speak about it in multiple different ways. And those are the metaphors that not only will help your audience understand and remember this speech, but will allow you to use them as a mode of invention. It will allow you to discover more points in your speech about which you can talk as the metaphor continues. The next big stylistic idea is antithesis. Antithesis appears a lot. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It's really just when we take two opposing ideas and we put them near each other. It allows us to kind of feel something happening at the level of the sentence, that there's a contrast there that you can use to do all sorts of different other stylistic effects. So you can think of any pair of opposing ideas, the beginning and the end. You can think of sweet and sour. Any kind of conceptual pair can be used to structure a sentence in a way that's antithetical. It will allow you to do lots of different things in your speech by thinking and working on antithesis. Finally, we're just going to do one more idea here, and it's really a very broad one that almost all of these other stylistic tropes participated in some way, and it's repetition. Now, there's lots of different levels at which repetition can become a feature of the speech that you're giving, but we can think about a few. Sometimes when you're giving a list, you say apples, oranges, and bananas, but you can say it in a different way too. One way is to use syndeton, apples and oranges and bananas. I use and both times. Or I drop the and out altogether. Apples, oranges, bananas. Even that slight difference in how I repeat something gives us a slightly different effect. It's hard to feel what that effect is when it's decontextualized, but I would say roughly when I use asyndeton, apples, oranges, bananas, I give the impression that the list could continue further on. When I use syndeton, apples and oranges and bananas. It becomes more emphatic, the actual elements of the list that I'm naming. So those are some features of repetition. Sometimes we also have features where we repeat the same word over and over again, not to the point that it sounds like we're just up there. If we say location, 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 one of those classics of real estate business ideas. There was also a famous rhetorician when asked what's the important part of speech. They said delivery, 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 right? There are ways that that can be kind of a corny feature, but repetition, even when it's just at the level of words, can be effective. But often repetition is most effective at the level of the phrase, at the level of a kind of aspect of the phrase. This is the beginning of our business. This is the beginning of our collaboration. And this is the beginning of a friendship. So when I use that kind of roughly called, it's sometimes called tricolon, these names don't really matter. I can put a lot of emphasis by kind of creating a sense that these things are all part of the same thing, even as they vary. That's simply an effect that's being produced at the level of language. So if we think about metaphor, antithesis, and repetition, we have a lot of the features of style that are going to help improve and flavor your speech.